Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and patch 9.1.5 should be approaching very soon. Whether it is this week, the next week, or the week after that, we will most likely be seeing it in PTR very soon. With a 0.5 patch of World of Warcraft, this is a perfect opportunity for Blizz to go back and add some quality of life updates to the game. So far for 9.1.5, we've seen customization updates, which are awesome, but I wanted to chime in and include some of my ideas of what they could do when it comes to some of the quality of life stuff and the systems, primarily when dealing with alt characters. I'm someone with a bit of free time and a YouTube channel, so I got the opportunity to level one of every class to max level. So I have a little bit of experience with fresh, brand new level 60 character catch-up systems. With 0.5 patches in previous expansions adding some quality of life stuff for alts, I thought I should probably chime in and drop down some of my ideas of what Blizzard could do to make 9.1.5 an ultimately awesome alt leveling experience. So let's start it off with the leveling experience. Honestly, for Shadowlands leveling, I can't really complain. I'm someone who took a little bit of time in Legion and in BFA to get one of every character, one of every class up to maximum level. It really didn't take that long, and besides the same 4 dungeons that I had to do for my dungeon grinds, there are a couple of things that Blizzard can do to improve that 50 to 60 experience. Starting off with the Maw skip. Don't get me wrong, the Maw was awesome at first. It's a brand new place, it's not Azeroth anymore, there's the Jailer, everybody's dying at the hand of the Jailer. It was a really cool introduction to Shadowlands, but after doing it a couple times, it gets kind of old. And after a while, you just want to skip it just to get into the real game. Now, you do gain enough EXP inside of the Maw for one whole level, but I know plenty of players that don't really care much about it. They just want to get into Shadowlands as soon as possible. Besides that, let's talk about maybe adding some of the endgame elements as part of the questing experience, because early in the Shadowlands, Blizzard did describe the alt fate leveling experience as a way to start doing some of the endgame content before you even head up to max level. Like, what if you could start your Covenant campaign, since you need to do it anyway, you could start it at level 50, earning a lot of renown and getting some of the level 60 gear before you even hit max level. Or just jump into Korthia, working on your Covenant mounts and killing rares for cosmetics and slaying rares and looting mushrooms, and all those give you solid experience instead of doing the same 4 dungeons in Shadowlands that we are so used to. Adding some of those end game things for us to work on while we're still leveling towards level 60, so that if we're trying to catch up to our main, even if there's a lot of these mandatory grinds like Torghast grind or Renown grind, Covenant story grind, at least being able to start doing those while we're still making our way towards max level on an old character. That idea isn't my own, but it's actually a community idea. Big thanks to Jace for bringing that one in. Speaking about it, if you want to join the Dal community, Discord link down below. You guys are always welcome. Subscribe to the channel while you're at it, give it a like, but let's continue with the video. The next part we'll talk about is Renown. Grinding to level 80 Renown on our main characters is a slow and steady progress. Every single week we log on, collect our 3 Renown, or currently 2 Renown a week, and it's pretty easy to do. Just get a bunch of anima from Korthia and kill a bunch of rares in Korthia, and you are done. You get all the Renown you need. It takes minutes. At longest, it'll take you 30 minutes. But when it comes to our alts, a lot of players want to catch up to where our main is at. Catch up with all the Renown really quickly, and grinding the Renown 1 through 40 didn't seem that bad, but 1 to 80 is going to feel very daunting. So I think there are some things that Blizzard could do in order to make the Renown gains better. And most importantly, it would help if they were more consistent. At the early levels, when you're not at Renown 30, it looks like everything drops you Renown. Every BG, every dungeon, every raid, every Torghast you do, every calling that you earn, and your Covenant campaign gives you double the Renown when you do it. Eventually, and for me on my alts, it usually slows down about Renown 30, things stop dropping you guaranteed Renown. Callings, world bosses, and the story quests in Korthia and your Covenant still do, but BGs, Torghast, arenas, all these instance activities give you a chance at Renown, and it's not a guarantee ever. So sometimes you'll do 2 dungeons and you get Renown twice, or sometimes you'll do 10 arena matches and you'll get 0 Renown for all of them. So what would help, I think, is if there was more consistency in terms of just exactly what gives you Renown and how much. Also, nobody would complain if we could get Renown very quickly. And right now, I have two different approaches of how Blizzard could do it. The first one would be, what if your main character could somehow buy an item, maybe with anima, to gift to your alts so that you could start them at least, I don't know, Renown 40. That way the grind wouldn't feel that bad. This way a character is able to at least start with decent soul binds and a lot of the progress done, so then as you're doing all these side activities, you are at least not super far behind your main. Another approach, I think, would be to maybe really giga buff the Renown rewards and make them drop from all activities, starting from dailies, maybe like elite quests or something. And callings, of course, because since they already do, make it sure that every battleground drops Renown, every dungeon drops Renown, Torghast, hell, even Korthia dailies. What about Korthia rares? Even those mushrooms that you pick in Korthia, what if everything you did up until a certain point was a guaranteed Renown drop? And in a sense, treat Renown like anima. Players complained that there was never enough anima in Shadowlands ever, so Korthia came out and now it's full of anima, and now players can't get rid of anima. So what if Blizzard treated Renown like they treated anima and Korthia and just kind of supercharged every activity to give you a ton, maybe up until a certain point? Next, let's talk about covenants. Covenants are pretty cool. And you know what's also cool about covenants? The story. It's unique. For every single covenant, you have a different path, different characters you meet, and all of them were enjoyable the first time I played it on all my old characters, as I plan to have one character for every single covenant. But what isn't fun is having to do those stories a second time, a third time, and sometimes a fifth time. And it happens pretty regularly as patches come out with minor adjustments for covenants and classes, where I do want to check out different builds of different specs and classes, but having to do that campaign all over again just isn't all that fun. I've done it before, and I would prefer if I didn't have to do it on my alts, or if maybe there was a way to sweeten the deal if you do have to do the campaign. So like with the last point, approach one would be to decouple the soul binds from the campaign. Let campaign be there and let it be an option for players, but allow players to unlock certain gameplay elements like soul binds without having to do the campaign. Maybe attach the soul binds to unlocks with certain renown levels. So once you reach a certain renown level like 10 or 20, you unlock your soul binds naturally, and then you can start putting conduits into those soul binds. The option 2 would be if you are forced to play the campaign, if maybe there's certain aspects in the game like game code that kind of is tied to the story where you basically have to play through the campaign before you can really get your character up and running or unlock your soul binds, then at least sweeten the deal. If for some reason they can't remove the rewards from the campaign, make the campaign be like a straightforward path to getting your renown and maybe even some decent gear on the side. Like, if let's say every single campaign chapter give you 5 renown, or 6, or 7, I think it'd be really good, like a way for you to just to speed run to your renown level to catch up to your alt. It would also solve the problem from things we talked about earlier. But also what they could do is maybe upgrade the gear drops from the Covenant gear in those story chapters. Don't get me wrong, the gear looks awesome. It's fantastic look the first time you get it. And the gear is pretty usable maybe in last season for a starter character, but right now 184 item level gear is just not gonna cut it. So what if they were to up the item level of it for season 2 to something like 220? And the next season, if we're getting one, they were to up it again. So as a fresh new level 60 character, at least the base gear you get for doing the full story, since it's pretty much mandatory anyway, at least you're starting off on the right foot. At least you're starting off with a decent set of gear, and you could dive easily into dungeons and into raids, since, you know, gear in Shadowlands is not dropping from the sky like it did in previous expansions. This way, a brand new level 60 character would at least have some sort of a straightforward path to get started, like finish your campaign, and then you can dive into all the other end game content. This way you will at least be able to start on a right foot. Next, let's talk about PvP. It is probably the most fun aspect of all MMOs for me, and WoW Arenas, I feel like there's going to be no other game mode like World of Warcraft Arenas, 2v2s, 3v3s, even the old 5v5s. So to help out brand new level 60 characters in PvP, I feel like Conquest Catch-Up is a good thing. The fact that you can just run into arenas or battlegrounds and just catch up Conquest to whatever your main has, the cap, I think it's good. But eventually over time it is going to grow larger and larger as weeks go by in the season. In fact, they're pretty large right now as is. I would imagine that's a lot of games for you to win an arena, so one of the easiest things you could do is maybe just allow players that are super behind to just get more conquest per arena win. Really cut down on those numbers so you can catch up to your main character as quickly as possible. Next, let's talk about honor and honor gear. Currently, players feel like honor gear just doesn't feel competitive, as there's many ranks to it. The end game version of honor gear is actually kind of okay to start into arenas and battlegrounds. It gives you enough versatility and it upscales in PvP, so there's decent item level to it. But what I would do for 9.1 is remove all the different ranks of honor gear and just let the vendor sell the maximum rank of honor gear, so players can just buy one set of gear without the need to upgrade it with all their honor, so they can easily jumpstart themselves into arenas and battlegrounds. While conquest gear should still be better than honor gear, I don't think honor gear needs to have so many ranks to make it less competitive than straight up conquest gear could be. Also, what would be cool is more ways for you to earn conquest. Like back in Battle for Azeroth, they had these faction assaults where Alliance and Horde would evade each other, and then players could just swarm different areas that both Horde and Alliance were encouraged to play along with. And from those world quests, you could gain conquest by finishing them. And also you could fight the members of the opposite faction. They could maybe add like a zone where you just gotta fight enemies of the opposite faction, or maybe NPCs if no one's around, and fill up a bar. And as you brawl inside of it, you brawl until your bar is full, and then you could just walk away with a bunch of rewards, win or lose. And maybe have a couple of these events out in the open world to encourage players to want to turn on war mode and participate in PvP. Allow players other ways of interacting with PvP content besides getting super sweaty in arenas or rated battlegrounds. Mythic Plus, let's talk about M+. I've been enjoying M+, and this season has been pretty easy compared to Prideful, but there are some things that they could still improve with. I feel like Valor in Mythic Plus, at least for alts, has lost a lot of its value, because previously upgrading gear from your Mythic Pluses required KSM achievement, but now it's no longer tied to KSM, it's instead tied to M+ rating. That means on every one of your alt characters you'll have to get KSM all over again if you want to be able to upgrade their gear with Valor. So that's not feasible for a lot of players. As someone who has a lot of alts, most of them just do one Mythic Plus key a week, and some of them will just do Tir Nasai every single week is the easiest key to do. And all that Valor that's sitting in my character alt bags, it doesn't really do anything anymore. It just sits there and I literally can't use it. So the first suggestion would be to bring it back to the old system where you could upgrade that character's gear based on achievements. So have KSM tied in to be able to upgrade the gear to the highest rank. This way my alts can use Valor to at least upgrade whatever dungeon gear they get to a higher rank and catch up in gear faster. Or if they're not going to do that, then maybe add a way for us to spend Valor. Maybe eventually amass enough Valor points to be able to buy certain dungeon pieces from a vendor. Those dungeon pieces don't even have to be high item level. In fact, if they are the same item level as a heroic Sanctum of Domination, I will be happy with that alone. At least my alts will have something to spend their Valor on rather than have it burn in a hole in their pockets. Then we have rating, and rating is pretty box standard. I think as rating is right now, when it comes to gearing your main, it's fine. But when it comes to gearing your alts, there are certain things that you're also going to need before you can fully start playing them. And in the current system of Sanctum of Domination, we actually are seeing this problem that will probably become a bigger problem going into the next raid tier. Domination gear and domination gem bonuses. The gems themselves are pretty strong, and when you have 3 of the same color gem in your gear, you get a pretty strong bonus that's bigger than any item level gains a character may have. So having a really strong, really high ranked gems in, let's say, LFR gear still allows the character to have really good gem bonuses. However, that domination gear is really hard to get sometimes. Sometimes players are just unlucky. I've had guildies that have done the full heroic Sanctum of Domination, Mythic Sanctum, even LFR Sanctum, and still could not for weeks get any of the domination gear. It would be nice if Blizzard added some baseline domination gear on a vendor outside of the raid, so players could at least take advantage of the bonuses even if they're not getting full advantage of the secondary and primary stat bonuses. This would also help going forward when tier sets are reintroduced, as tier sets are expected to add extra bonuses for our characters, and those bonuses are probably going to be pretty significant in terms of the performance gains, tanking, healing, and DPS. And not being able to have certain of these tier set bonuses for weeks and weeks on end will mean that those characters are going to be a little bit behind. If the tier set bonuses are going to be as strong as previous expansions, you're basically going to need them if you want to be performing as an alt character in a brand new raid. So if maybe in the future they added a way for you to unlock a very base low item level version of raid gear from a vendor of sorts, but at least your character gained the tier set bonus to take into dungeons or raids, and those alt characters can at least have some sort of a relevant impact from those set bonuses, rather than going into the raid without the set bonuses and just absolutely doing negative damage to the boss. Next, we have Torghast and Legendaries, which is one of the bits of content that I think could probably use a bit of a change. Blizzard done some 9.1 stuff to make Torghast and Soul Ash a little bit easier to send to your alts, but I think personally it's time for a change in direction, like currencies. I really think they should take Soul Ash out of Torghast, and maybe change the currency of how you unlock your legendaries and make them maybe with something like anima. The world of Shadowlands runs on anima. Everything is built with anima and everything is fueled by anima. Anima is pretty abundant right now, especially in Korthia, and being able to craft legendaries with anima would give players a sink to anima, one, because we have so much of it anyway. They could change Torghast that instead of dropping Soul Ash, instead it drops you a bunch of anima, which at least can be used for cosmetics. And also, and this was my suggestion before patch 9.1, this adds other forms of content that can also earn your legendary besides solely just Torghast, giving players more activities to do if they want to craft their legendary. And I have a lot of other ideas of what they could do for Torghast, like add a lot more pets, toys, mounts, but also maybe a unique item level set or a gear set that's totally cosmetic that you can't get anywhere else, turning into more of a mage tower experience with new twisting corridors, where every single twisting corridor you get different rewards little by little. Maybe make it something that's super extremely challenging, but will get easier with endgame gear for maybe the next raid after maybe patch 9.2 or a 9.25. But I think I'll save a lot of these ideas for maybe a future video at some point. Let me know in the comments or in Discord if it's something that you actually would want to see. And finally, I have other ideas that really couldn't be fit as part of any of the chapters we talked about before. But this is more just a smattering of other ideas that I think could maybe be used in order to make the game a little bit easier for alts, whether they're fresh new level 60s or alts that are currently actively played. So for example, like if I'm playing my alts and I want to go back to a Covenant, but I first need to do that 2-week questline before I can make the switch. What if there was a way, maybe to spend anima since we have so much anima already, to find a way to like gift a Covenant leader a gift of anima to bypass the 2-week questline or something. Also, conduit energy is still not super fun. Speaking about using anima for things, what if you could use anima to charge up that conduit energy? So if let's say you have a bunch of it laying around, if you just want to experiment with the builds and swap them around, just let players do it if they don't really want to take the conduit energy out of the game completely. Conduits, that's another thing we could talk about. I feel like there maybe should be a way for players that PvP or PvE, an easier way to at least get the base version of their conduits. Like the item level of a conduit right now is like 226, is pretty low. So what if there was a way for you to guarantee buy certain conduits instead of having to run dungeons or raids hoping that it drops? It just would be nice for a fresh new level 60 character to just do some battlegrounds or maybe do some dungeons, get some valor or some conquest/honor, and use that currency to just buy their best in slot PvE or PvP conduits to at least have the character starting off on the right foot when they're diving into content. And that's going to be about everything I have so far. Now, there probably is a lot more that could be added, and by the time 9.15 is here, I do wonder if any of these features, even in some small remote ways, are going to be somewhat implemented, because there's a lot of cool stuff that Blizzard could do to make it easier for us to play our alt characters. But I'm going to wrap it up here. This is too long of a video, and it took me a couple times to record, so I've been doing this for a while. Thank you guys so much for checking it out, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all these ideas? Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you think are not going to be the fix? But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.